Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for holding this hearing, and thank you all for coming in to talk about this as it continues to grow and metastasize as a problem in the region. We can take a trip through it real quick. I mean, in Colombia, they've made tremendous progress over the years. It's a nation that lived basically through cartel wars in the 90s and at a time when bombings were going on, and then they've had to confront all these groups. But and after that, there were the successors of that group, not to mention the FARC and the ELN and all these other criminal and terrorist organizations that have operated there for a long time. And now they face particularly the Clan del Golfo, which was kind of I guess, the heir to some of the cartels of the 90s as they continue to link up. Colombia remains the largest producer and exporter of cocaine in the world, and they've now created these lucrative markets, and that they have linked up with these Mexican cartels with the cooperation, unfortunately, of the Venezuelan regime, which itself has been caught in cooperating with the transport of cocaine out of Colombia. It's part of Maduro's revenue sources for the regime. In fact, I believe just a few days ago there was another conviction of a high-ranking official who had been a member of that Cartel de los Soles. He was convicted, I believe, in Manhattan for the work they've done. A new entity, which is transnational now, unfortunately, is the gang Tren de Aragua. This is a vicious gang. It's established itself initially in the prisons of Venezuela, but then became endemic in Peru, in Ecuador, Panama, Bolivia, Brazil. They all face these elements, and now we are seeing evidence that they have made it into the United States. Every single day we're seeing reports from Chicago, from South Florida, from New York, that these gang members are here. And this is a particularly vicious gang that specialize in extortion and kidnapping and rape and murder for hire and everything else you can imagine. And so another significant problem that we face. Moving on, I mean, I think it's important to note that Ecuador, which was a place we didn't normally associate with problematic, they have become a transit point. And so what happens is these localized gangs start killing each other, but also start attacking the state as they become transitors, as they become sort of the middlemen between the cocaine that comes across that border from Colombia and the Mexican cartels. And they've threatened the state. Took over, you saw very recently, it came to a point of crisis, and I believe they're still operating under a state of emergency as a result of that. Nicaragua is an interesting dynamic. It's a transit country for cocaine trafficking, we know that. But in addition, and there's a strong Mexican cartel presence in Nicaragua, but adding to that, it's become a human trafficking hub. Particularly when they lifted all their visa requirements, people know if I fly into Nicaragua from anywhere in the world, I can go there, there won't be a visa requirement, and from there I can be trafficked into the United States. So that becomes a problem. I think it's well known, the challenges we face in Mexico, where both the cartel in Sinaloa and Jalisco honestly control a significant amount of territory. I know it's not transnational in nature, but I think it's important to mention what the chairman already mentioned, and that is today Port-au-Prince, 80% of Port-au-Prince, maybe more at this point, is controlled by criminal gangs, a combination of criminal gangs. There's not a single elected official in Haiti. There's this transitional commission that's coming together, but there are now rumors that a couple of them who are on it may actually end up leaving the country because of how unsafe it's become. I think it's important to note that both the small armed forces of Haiti and their police department, despite limited resources and inability to be resupplied, have shown extraordinary courage and bravery in confronting these gangs. That's not being reported enough. But they've got no weapons, they've got no ammunition, they've got no body armor, they've got no way to resupply them. And I hope we're looking at ways to do that, because no matter what Kenya or other countries decide to do, they better have somebody to link up with on the ground, they better have an airport that's open. And I know there's a prohibition right now on exporting weaponry and equipment to the Haitian Army, National Army. And I understand the history of how armies have played out in the history of Haiti, but they have been a quite capable force over the last few weeks. And right now, without them, I don't know if the police could have withstood some of the challenges that they have faced. And I hope we'll reconsider that, because there's countries that I believe are willing to step forward and provide them some of the equipment they need, but are scared off by the U.S. prohibition. So there's a lot to cover. I'm not sure we can cover it all today, but the bottom line is that all this becomes endemic in our national security, because ultimately, whatever happens in the region, it finds itself here. It finds itself here in our banking system. It finds itself here in our streets, both in the presence of drugs and these criminal organizations that migrate towards here. It is part of the driver of a migratory crisis. One of the reasons people leave these countries is because they feel threatened by these criminal groups, and it's a growing problem. Whereas 25 years ago, we could pinpoint 1 or 2 places where we had these, now they are in multiple countries, and they are operating like a vertically, in some cases like the cocaine trafficking, a vertically integrated industry. The Mexicans have basically, the cartels have basically vertically integrated the business. Where they were once just the traffickers over the border, they are now basically everything but the producer of the actual cocaine, and in the case of the fentanyl, they are the producer, and of the meth. So there's a lot to cover, but I appreciate you coming in and talking to us about it. And I did want to note, we did ask the DEA to be a part of this. They were not allowed to come. I don't know if that's a jurisdictional thing because we don't have oversight, but I think it's impossible to really focus in on any of this. And if you travel anywhere in the region and they hold meetings for us, there's DEA officials there because they are at the front lines of a lot of this. I think it's pretty difficult for us to really confront this challenge without having testimony from the DEA, and I hope that in a future hearing they'll reconsider that prohibition on coming before us. So thank you.